Hi, it's me, Marty Leonards, and I am sitting here upstairs at the Subterranean in the green room before Jeff's performance of Live from Studio X. And Jeff,
Hi.
we're just here to chat a little bit.
It's a blue room, but it's...
I know. Why did they call it a green room? Where did that even come from?
I don't know.
Who knows? I have to say, we've known each other for a long, long time. Haven't seen each other in a while, but I feel as if I've been spending a lot of time with you lately. Like, I feel like you've been my constant companion. I've reading the new book, the memoir, Let's Go So We Can Get Back, listening to the new album, Warm. Yeah, it's been a Jeff Tweedy couple of weeks. It's kind of great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm really... You need to, I don't know, record some of... Well, actually, I get to spend time with you whenever I want. Just turn on the radio.
That's all you have to do.
Yeah. So it's pretty easy for me. If you want to listen to my book, I read it myself. So you could have even more time with me walking around with headphones on.
Well, that's interesting because, reading the book, it really is in your voice. I mean, when I'm reading that book, I hear your voice doing it, and it's such an intimate book, and it's also so readable. It's very conversational, incredibly conversational.
Thank you. Well, that was honestly my most ambitious goal, was to write a book that felt very much like what you just described.
Yeah.
I read out loud a lot when I was writing it, and I actually recorded interviews and transcribed them to have some things just come out the way I would try and tell the story.
Wow. I have tried to write about myself. Journals. I've taken classes. I've taken creative nonfiction classes where you write about yourself. I've always had a really, really hard time doing it because I found it difficult to write about me. Even though I wasn't sure if anyone was ever going to read it, just for me it was hard. What about for you? What's that like to commit to that kind of a project where you write about yourself?
Oh, I'm the easiest thing I can think of to write about because I just assume everybody's interested in my every last, brief, even minuscule thought. I don't know, just kind of that kind of guy, I guess. I don't know. Honestly, it's like I have a weird combination of obviously being a baby in the birth order of my family and kind of an only child because my older siblings were gone by the time I really have memories. I was really exalted in our family household, so I think that ingrained in me this idea that people are interested in whatever I have to say. And at the same time, I end up sharing a lot of things that people think are really vulnerable and sort of intimate details that other people have, feel maybe self-conscious about sharing. And I think because of the aforementioned weird birth order thing, I just assume everybody shares those things, and then I'm kind of struck by the fact that they don't, and then I'm left having told everyone that I pooped my pants or something, and that's what happens.
Did you how did you start writing the book? I mean, did you have a series of writings that were scattered that you put together, or did you start at the beginning? This is where I'm starting. Because for someone who maybe wants to write a memoir, where do you even begin?
I actually started with another author, basically kind of having that person interview me.
Oh, okay.
And took hours and hours of interviews with me and took the transcripts. And starting point was shaping that into the arc of a book or the arc of a narrative.
Yeah.
And then going back and revising until it felt more like a finished book than just one side of a conversation that was transcribed.
Yeah. Well, it worked really well.
Thank you.
You're very forthcoming, as you were saying. You're just like that in life, but in the book. And I think some of the more interesting things, people probably think, oh, Jeff Tweedy book, let's find out all this dirt about Wilco that we didn't know. Let's find out about Uncle Tupelo that we didn't know. But you take care of that stuff kind of matter-of-factly. But what's really interesting is when you write about your family, when you write about your father, when you write about your process, your creative process, how you write songs. That was just incredibly fascinating.
Well, those are the things that matter the most to me. I mean, a lot of the things that fans are interested in, I try to answer questions that I haven't really been asked about those types of topics, like the different lineup changes and the Uncle Tupelo ending. Trying to make it a little bit more, maybe like you said, a little bit more matter of fact and humane. But I don't generally spend much time dwelling on those topics. Right. But I do think about my family a lot, and I do think about what I do a lot, because I'm still really excited about getting better. I really think about it a lot. Not just better at making songs or recording, but better at being a dad or better at being a husband. So yeah, I think that came through in the book, and it wasn't necessarily intentional that I was going to try and shift the focus to those things. That's just the thing I seem to have the most ease in writing about.
Yeah. Well, and you also were really open about your time in recovery and getting sober, and that was sort of what started you writing this book, right? Is that true? Did that process, or at least get you to a place where you felt you should do this?
Yeah, there was really kind of offered an opportunity to write a book, and the general perception is that you are at the end of your life when you write a memoir,
right.
So I was a little hesitant because of that, but honestly, I kind of floated the idea out with in front of my family, and after some hearty laughs at the idea of me writing a book, there was this kind of there was the notion that experience for me, going through recovery, going through rehab, could potentially be helpful, and it's a story worth sharing at the very least, because that's one of the ways that you stay healthy, is to be open and honest about your life and not try and sugarcoat or conceal things about what you're capable of and at your worst.
Yeah.
So that was really the tipping point. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I should share that, because that's how you keep your sobriety in a way.
Yeah. I also liked how you wrote about art, making art. Do you make great art through suffering, or is it work? And that was pretty great for all artists, because that's what it is. You just have to work and work and work, and you certainly, being one of the hardest working people, and I mean, with all the music that you've done with Wilco and everything, I mean, you're constantly doing something. You're a hard-working guy. I
like working. I don't. I never understood that that aspect as a selling point for a rock and roll lifestyle. Is like this notion that you could be in a rock band and not have to work.
Yeah.
That seemed boring. I know it always, and honestly, I always sort of innately understood that all of the best bands were obviously the ones that worked the hardest.
Yeah.
There were the Ramones. You think the Ramones didn't work at what they did? That was insane. They were like it's like a Marine drill sergeants. So yeah, but I think suffering plays a part in art. I just bristle at the notion that an artist's suffering is somehow more intense or felt deeper or is more noble. Everybody has to struggle through certain periods in their life, and in my opinion, artists are kind of the lucky ones, because they have an outlet for some of that, some of those emotions.
Yeah. The new album, Warm, is kind of it is like a companion piece to the book. You were writing both the songs and the book at the same time, right?
Yeah, I was finishing the record and finishing the book in roughly the same time period.
Yeah, it's interesting that at the end of the book you have the lyrics to a few songs that really sort of go back directly to what we've just read.
Yeah.
You hear these songs now and you're like, okay, that's what that's about. It's rare when. And without sitting there and breaking the song down and telling us exactly what it's about, if you've read the book and you hear the songs now, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, it ended up that way. It wasn't like a grand marketing scheme that everybody thought would be a great idea to make a record and try and promote it at the same time as a book. But it just coincided, and then that's an unintentional byproduct of them being out at the same time. Is they do really seem to inform each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it makes for a great experience, and I really love the album.
Oh, thank you.
It's great. It's so intimate, and today you're going to be playing some songs in a smaller venue, but there still are maybe 100, 150 people here.
Yeah.
Those songs almost are like you just singing to one person, and that's how the record comes across.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's really, the reality of it is like you could sing to an audience, but an audience doesn't have a consciousness.
Right.
So I think you're always better off looking people in the eye and realizing that you're singing to one person at a time, whether they're all there at once or not. And I really feel like I've been on stage so much in my life, and I really like that feeling. The feeling of being on stage, singing something, and feeling like I'm having a really rewarding conversation with somebody, like I'm being listened to.
Right.
And it's weird that it's in one direction, but it doesn't feel that way to me. It feels, I really appreciate being listened to. I feel like that's a real gift to be given as an artist. It's somebody to write songs, to actually be able to feel someone listening to you is really beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I was listening to your the podcast you did with Mark Maron, and you played "I Know What It's Like" just on the acoustic guitar, like you're sitting here. And I heard so much more in the song when you performed it like that than I had in the song that when I played on the radio. You're on the radio, you're not really that glued into the lyrics. I was blown away by that. It's such a beautiful song.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I mean, all the songs on Warm were picked because of, because of that. They all felt like songs that I could put across by myself without a full band arrangement. And I can play almost any of my songs on an acoustic guitar, and I do, and I have. But with older Wilco songs and Uncle Tupelo songs, in a lot of cases, I know the audience is filling in a lot for me. They're still hearing some of the arrangement on the record, and they have a relationship with it. But these are all songs, for the most part, on Warm that I played before anybody had ever heard them, and it still felt like I didn't need to color in anything else. The lyrics and the guitar alone kind of got the reaction I would have hoped for.
Yeah. Had you been playing these songs in solo shows leading up to the recording?
Yeah, that's where the sequence and the song selection came from. Coming home from tour and saying, I'm going to try and find all the songs that I played on the tour that really felt like something changed in the room, even though it's a new song.
Yeah. When you tour this, it's always going to be you solo, or are you going to have the band that's the Tweedy Band? The Tweedy Band, which I love that band.
I love the Tweedy Band too. I think that the economics of the situation are going to require me to go out by myself for the most part. But Spencer might pop in here and there and surprise me on the road, and I think we can actually put almost all these songs across as a duo too. It's we've done it.
You've done it.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on the record, congrats on the book, and happy holidays. And also looking forward to hearing the songs downstairs.
Thank you. Great talking to you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks
Jeff
for having me
Tweedy.
back.
I'm Marty Leonard.